Breaking. Nigel Farage just dismantled the Prime Minister in Parliament with evidence so damning that Labour MPs physically recoiled on live television. The emergency debate on immigration descended into unprecedented chaos within minutes. Poll numbers shifted dramatically as millions watched the confrontation unfold in real time. And what happened next has shaken the British political establishment to its core. If you want to understand how Reform UK suddenly became Britain's most powerful political force overnight, hit that subscribe button right now, because this story is developing by the second. Here's what sparked this seismic political shift. 3 days ago, Home Office statistics leaked to The Telegraph revealed that 87,000 undocumented migrants had disappeared from government tracking systems since January. The classified report marked Minister's eyes only, detailed systematic failures across border security protocols that senior civil servants had repeatedly flagged to the Prime Minister's office. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper's response was immediate but ineffective. These allegations are being thoroughly investigated, and we remain committed to securing our borders while maintaining our humanitarian obligations. But Reform UK wasn't accepting standard government deflection. Nigel Farage, recently elected MP for Clacton in a stunning by-election victory, submitted an urgent question to the Speaker. Parliamentary observers noted this was the first time in 27 years that an emergency debate was granted to a party with fewer than 5 sitting MPs. Farage's opening statement at precisely 2:17 p.m. yesterday was methodically devastating. Prime Minister, he began with uncharacteristic calm. Before we discuss the 87,000 people your government has lost track of, I'd like to address the document you're claiming doesn't exist. The chamber fell silent. Every MP leaned forward. Starmer visibly tensed. This internal memo, Farage continued, holding up a sheet of paper, dated March 17th and signed by you personally, acknowledges the security breach but instructs Home Office officials to, and I quote directly, manage public messaging to minimise electoral impact while implementing remedial measures discreetly over an extended time frame. Gasps erupted across the chamber. Speaker Lindsay Hoyle called for order 17 times in 2 minutes. 3 Labour front benchers were seen frantically messaging on their phones. The Prime Minister's face drained of all colour as cameras zoomed in for the most devastating political close-up since John Major's defeat. In other words, Farage thundered, his voice rising for the first time. You deliberately concealed a national security catastrophe to save your political skin. The response was immediate and chaotic. Starmer rose unsteadily, dropped his notes, and delivered what political commentators are already calling the most disastrous parliamentary performance by a sitting Prime Minister in modern history. These accusations are, he stammered. The honourable gentleman is well known for. Starmer stopped, started again, then delivered the fatal line. The timing of this information's release is suspicious and frankly irresponsible. The implication was unmistakable. Starmer wasn't denying the document's authenticity. He was criticising its disclosure. Within seconds, Reform MPs were on their feet shouting, "Resign!" Conservative benches joined the chorus. Most devastatingly, 27 Labour MPs remained seated, stone-faced, silent. Inside Westminster, senior political correspondents with decades of experience described the scene as parliamentary execution. BBC's Laura Quinsberg called it the moment a government began to collapse. Sky News's Beth Rigby described it as political meltdown in real time. Meanwhile, ordinary British families in communities transformed by unchecked immigration are suffering consequences that Westminster elites never experience. James Hodgson, a 62-year-old former factory worker from Hartlepool, described how his neighbourhood has become unrecognisable in 5 years. The council house my son applied for has a 7-year waiting list, Hodgson explained, his voice breaking. Yet somehow, people who arrived last month are being accommodated immediately. Sarah Pearson, a 8-year-old NHS nurse from Rotherham, works double shifts while living with her adult daughter because housing costs have skyrocketed. I've served my community for 34 years, she said, fighting tears. Now I can't even afford to live in it. While these hard-working Britons struggle to survive, Westminster politicians continue receiving automatic pay rises and expense allowances that cover multiple homes. We're talking £84,000 basic salary, with some ministers receiving over £140,000 annually. Constituency offices costing taxpayers millions, while local police stations and libraries close permanently. The contrast is so stark, so fundamentally unjust, that even traditional Labour heartlands are turning against the party that once claimed to represent working people. They've abandoned us completely, said former Labour councillor Michael Dawson from Sunderland. They talk about diversity and inclusion in Parliament while we can't get a GP appointment for 3 weeks. But then something unprecedented happened that nobody saw coming. King Charles III made a carefully calibrated intervention through royal channels that shattered decades of political convention. During a scheduled meeting with the Privy Council at Windsor Castle, the King reportedly questioned whether current immigration policies reflected the genuine will of the British people. Though not naming specific parties or politicians, the timing and context left no doubt about his meaning. Palace insiders confirm the King has been deeply concerned by reports of community tensions and the government's handling of immigration statistics. Royal sources revealed that Charles specifically asked cabinet ministers present whether Parliament was adequately representing the concerns of ordinary citizens or prioritising international obligations over domestic harmony. The question, constitutionally permissible but politically explosive, left government ministers stammering through vague responses. One Privy Councillor described the King as extraordinarily well briefed on immigration statistics and pointedly interested in how numbers were being presented to the public versus the reality on the ground. It wasn't just the questions. The source admitted it was his detailed knowledge that caught ministers off guard. The optics are catastrophic for Starmer's government, creating the impression that even the monarchy has lost confidence in the Prime Minister's integrity during a national security crisis. The immediate political impact was seismic. Opinion polls commissioned by 3 separate organisations showed nearly identical results. Reform UK surged to 31%, Conservatives stabilised at 29%, while Labour collapsed to 27%, their lowest level since the darkest days of Jeremy Corbyn's leadership. Political fractures appeared instantly. 14 Labour MPs publicly called for an independent investigation into the leaked memo. Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves cancelled 3 scheduled media appearances. The Parliamentary Labour Party WhatsApp group reportedly went silent after one backbencher posted, "We're witnessing our own extinction event." International reactions compounded the crisis. French President Emmanuel Macron called for honest bilateral discussions on cross-channel migration. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen referenced statistical discrepancies in Britain's immigration reporting that undermine meaningful cooperation. Social media exploded with activity. Number Farage was right, and number Starmer lied trended number 1 and 2 globally for 14 consecutive hours. TikTok videos showing Starmer's parliamentary meltdown were viewed 37 million times in a single day. Facebook groups in traditional Labour strongholds filled with lifelong supporters announcing their defection to Reform UK. Protests erupted in 27 towns and cities across Britain. Over 20,000 demonstrators gathered in Manchester's Cathedral Gardens chanting, "Tell us the truth." Placards reading "Labour lied, democracy died" were photographed in communities that hadn't elected a Conservative MP in generations. Inside number 10, complete chaos reigns. Ministers are reportedly refusing to defend the Prime Minister on media rounds, with junior ministers being pushed forward instead. Deputy Leader Angela Rayner allegedly confronted Starmer in a heated exchange that staff described as nuclear. One aide claimed Rayner shouted, "You've destroyed everything we worked for. We're finished in our heartlands for a generation." Chief Whip Alan Campbell was overheard telling the Parliamentary Private Secretary, "We've lost at least 40 MPs already. They won't vote against us yet, but they're gone mentally." WhatsApp groups with names like Labour Survivors and Post-Care Recovery are actively discussing leadership alternatives. The question isn't if there will be a challenge to Starmer's leadership. It's whether the party can survive in its current form. The Prime Minister looked shell-shocked and disoriented, according to Downing Street insiders. One senior civil servant described him staring silently through a window for 17 minutes during what should have been a critical security briefing. But here's the confidential polling data that will send shockwaves through Westminster tonight. Leaked internal Labour documents show the party is projected to lose 138 seats if an election were held tomorrow. The confidential constituency by constituency breakdown reveals Reform UK would become the largest party in Parliament with a small but workable majority of 23 seats. If these projections are accurate, and if they reflect what multiple sources claim, then Britain stands on the precipice of the most significant political realignment since the Labour Party's formation in 1900. Think about what that means. A party formed just 5 years ago, potentially forming government. Traditional political boundaries redrawn overnight. Labour potentially reduced to a rump of urban seats with no meaningful path back to power for decades. The optics of that would be absolutely devastating for the entire political establishment that has dominated British politics for a century. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage is methodically building a shadow government. While Starmer huddles with increasingly disloyal advisers, Farage is touring Brexit voting constituencies that Labour took for granted for generations. The great betrayal of working Britain ends now, Farage declared to a crowd of 5,000 inches, Barnsley. His disciplined messaging on immigration, sovereignty, and political accountability is resonating across demographic and traditional party lines. The polls tell the story. Reform UK leading at 31%, gaining 2 percentage points daily, with working class support nearly tripling in 6 months. For the first time in modern British politics, a new party isn't just competitive, it's dominant. The next 72 hours are absolutely critical. Parliament will vote on a motion of no confidence on Thursday. Conservative leaders have already confirmed they will support the motion. At least 31 Labour MPs are reportedly considering abstaining, more than enough to bring down the government. Cabinet ministers are preparing resignation statements. Civil servants describe contingency planning for a caretaker government. The Bank of England has scheduled an emergency meeting to address market stability concerns. The question is no longer whether Starmer can recover politically, it's whether the Labour Party itself can survive as a unified political force or faces an existential split between its metropolitan liberal wing and traditional working-class base. Britain is witnessing its political landscape transform more dramatically than at any point since the Second World War. This crisis will be studied for generations as the moment when establishment parties finally faced accountability for decades of broken promises on immigration and sovereignty. At its epicenter stands Keir Starmer, who looks increasingly like a transitional figure who failed to understand the forces reshaping British politics beneath his feet. So here's the question that matters. Has Nigel Farage finally broken the two-party system? Did the Prime Minister just commit political suicide by covering up a national security failure that affects millions of ordinary Britons? Or will the establishment somehow unite to prevent Reform UK from fundamentally reshaping British politics forever? What do you think? Was Farage right to expose the government's cover-up? Or should national security concerns remain behind closed doors? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one. And if this political earthquake shocked you as much as it shocked us, share this video with everyone who needs to see what's really happening in British politics right now. The mainstream media won't tell you the full truth about the collapse of Labour's core vote, but we will. And tomorrow we'll bring you exclusive new revelations from inside the Labour Party as MPs consider whether to force a leadership challenge before Thursday's confidence vote.